Hi, good evening, person. Good to
Thank
be
you for
with you.
joining us. What do you all think about all of this happening now, and what does it portend for the Democratic Party in the US?
Yeah, but I think that we all agree the Democratic Party is energized in a way that it hasn't been for a long time. It's difficult to say that in the last few weeks, President Biden has not appeared to be a liability to the Democratic Party. I think that in one fell swoop overnight, the Democratic Party is now in a position where it feels that it can win this election. The path to victory before was quite unlikely. The reality is that President Trump is likely to create substantial confusion and chaos in the world order. It would have had a natural impact on the Caribbean, of course, and I think that for all of us, there is a sigh of relief being breathed because we simply realize now that there's a distinct possibility that Democrats can pull this thing off in a situation before where it seemed highly unlikely.
A day is a long time in politics. How really, truly likely is it that it can mean a win for the Democrats at the end of the year?
Yeah, and I think this is an important point. No one is suggesting that no Kamala Harris is there, that she automatically gets the nomination A, or alternatively, she automatically wins. At the same time, it appears as though there's a path, and I think that the path is enough to give energy to the campaign, to give motivation to the campaign, to give money to the campaign, and essentially it makes it all possible. But look, the reality is that President Trump is still a significant adversary. But I think that when it comes on to it, we're now comparing a candidate that has substantial baggage with a candidate that has very little or none at all. And I think that probably Kamala Harris's major challenges are she's not an outstanding orator, but then neither is President Trump. She has an association with President Biden's weaknesses in the past, which were a problem for him. For her, but ultimately, no. She comes in with very little baggage, and she faces off a candidate that has substantial. So, as I said, the path is there, and I think that that is essentially what is giving some energy to the campaign, and that's what people are seeing now in the 24 hours.
She still has to be endorsed, though, by her party. Do you think that to be a possibility? And if so, what challenges do you see within her party that would prevent her from receiving the nomination?
Yeah, I mean the interesting thing, I mean, we watch the Democratic Party with interest because they have a fairly distinct process for nominations, for persons walking towards nominations, and the order will be followed. We have to wait to see whether, as the convention approaches, whether she will be challenged, and if she's challenged, how the primaries will go, if they will do blitz primaries, or alternatively, whether they will have some mechanism to open up the convention to allow persons to choose. So they have a very well ordered process for making selections, and as I said, we watch it with great interest. But one way or the other, she is in a good position now to walk forward. And already we have had no challenges coming forward. I think that what people are doing is lining up to see if they can be a potential vice presidential pick. Even if there is a challenger, she can see that challenger off, or alternatively not, and the party can determine who they want to go forward. But they have very good rules and regulations. This is historic, however, so close to the party's meeting, the party's their annual conference. And I think that that will really be the challenge, and it will mean that they will not have to make new decisions and approaches, on the eve of a convention, which is something going to be completely new and novel to them. But I think that the party's mechanism can handle it.
Whichever party wins, how do you see it affecting Barbados' interests?
Yeah, I mean, this is a long-standing issue that we've discussed. Generally speaking, Caribbean islands tend to do better under the Republicans than under the Democrats. The irony is that the vast majority of Caribbean people in the diaspora and so on would always support the Democrats, but we appear to have done better under the Republicans, and largely this is because if someone loves you, you don't have to win their support, and I think that that's the reality with which the Democrats have viewed us in the past. So they have never really had to work to win our support. But that's a historic matter which we can probably delve into another time. I think at this point in time, however, we're looking at the fact that world order is threatened. The NATO is threatened by President Trump. The war in Gaza is threatened by President Trump. The war in Ukraine is threatened by President Trump. So I think it's beyond a situation of how the Caribbean people will react. I think it's a situation where the global order really requires very much that you not have a President Trump in office, because he will essentially return to a situation where it's America only as opposed to America first. He calls it America first, but ultimately it's America only. And this will impose a level of chaos and confusion on the global world order. And my sense is that the Caribbean will also be impacted by that as we go on. So if you say Caribbean people, for example, are concerned about the war in Gaza, and the reality is that we appreciated if President Trump became president again, that he would probably have very, very little time for any kind of pro-Palestinian cause. Certainly, Biden doesn't necessarily have the kind of time we think he should either, but the situation can become worse. So my sense is that if you view us as part of the world, yes, definitely we are looking towards a democratic victory with some hope that it will make our situation no worse than it currently is.
Seems to be a topic you'll have further discussion on tomorrow morning on Let's Talk About It at 9 o'clock on Q100.7 FM.